Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hi, Rodney. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Have you? I think we've had our spring already. Just the
Well,
weather outside is like it's going to be pushing 70 degrees today, so I hear.
yes, it's near 70 today. This is our first spring day. Yesterday it was fairly cold. It got in the 60s, maybe
It was
mid
it was
60s.
it was nipply out. I
Yeah.
agree. But today it's going to be really nice. Hey, for everybody that's tuning in and tuning in later, my name is Andy Elliott. I'm a realtor here in Williamson County, Tennessee, the great state of Tennessee. And I am with Rodney Wilds, my best friend from First Trust. He's a lender here also in Williamson County, Tennessee. And the whole idea for this show is just to give our opinions and talk about some news, things that are going on that affect us professionally and might affect you personally if you're in the home buying frame of mind. So our contact information is going to be in the description below. So get that out of the way. Any golfing for the week end?
Yes, but it was one of those weekends where we're going to move past that
Ah,
and not talk about
okie dokie then. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
it.
So,
Yeah.
so I think that being said, we got a few things to get to, and one of the topics that I wanted to touch base with today was the not the State of the Union address, but one of the items that he brought up was the homebuyer tax credit. So we want to talk about that, talk about some of the fallout from that, and some of the issues that are on the news these days, like we need more homes, we need a lot more homes, stuff like that. And we've been talking about affordability and trying to increase density, all that kind of stuff. But the bottom line, and it's going to be a punchline, I'll save it for later, but we've been talking about this. What is affordability going to do to builders down the road? That's going to be the punchline for how are they going to respond to this stuff. So in the meantime, we're going to I think it's time for Rodney's rates. What do you think there,
It's
Rodney?
it. It's it. Let's look at the rate.
I'm thinking one of these days I'll just do a playlist. We'll listen to music for half an hour. Ooh, look, we got a new. There it is.
All right, we ready?
We're ready. Hit it.
All right. Well, as you can see here, we are just on our normal roller coaster. We made great grounds at the end of last year. You've seen at the beginning of this year, we've taken a little bit of hit, but since over the last month, 2 to 3 couple weeks here, we've seen some nice improvements. We did get I believe it was a CPI report today that wasn't basically only today that report confirmed for me that there's absolutely probably no chance of a rate cut in March. You never
Mm-hmm.
know, but
Mm-hmm.
that's what
Mm-hmm.
I think April is our best chance for that, but we're hanging steady. You can see we've been in this line for 3 or 4 months now, and until some economic things continue to happen, that's where we're going to be.
That's where we're going to be. And I always bring this up every week. Probably should stop. But the news that I've got is that it's back up to 692. Yesterday it was down below that. Again, that's an
Hmm.
average. That doesn't apply to everybody. So don't
Yeah.
think that number applies to you. Everything's different for everybody. So, but I mean, that's just the way it goes. So we're all right. Hang on. Here we go. Bing, bing. That's good stuff. At least it's a little bit. Would you term this stable? Is it reasonably stable? The rates? Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I would say they're stable. They're not, I think there's a better chance of them going down than skyrocketing. So sure, I would call them stable,
Yeah, yeah. Well, and because they're not doing that.
stably,
Uh,
stably higher than I want them.
They're not. And you talked about the CPI. So in fact, if somebody's not staying on top of that, which if we didn't do this, I wouldn't stay on top of it either, to be honest. It went up like a tenth of a point or something. Inflation is up just a smidge. I mean, it's the tiniest smidge, but it's going in the wrong direction. And as I've been told, it's not Jerry, it's Jay. Jay and his cohorts and his 11 band of merrymen are probably not going to be lowering that rate till later in the year, till they get a cooler number. I would agree with that on Rodney.
Yeah, but I think they're getting close. You know, he did. They did point out that they are not looking to do this too late either. You know what I'm saying? They've said that several times, is that they're not. They don't want to sit here and stall out the market either. So
yeah, you know, and they've been, and I think that overall, really, quite frankly, the truth is that it may have gone up, but that's just a technicality. I mean, it's such a small amount. You know, I mean, I would call that a skosh. You know, that's a technical term, meaning, you know, this.
Yeah,
it's just a skosh.
Yeah.
I mean, so if there were good news to be had, that would be it. So here we go. Wait, I gotta go back. Gotta get to my stuff here. I love that. I love that musician right here. So here we go. This is kind of interesting, and hopefully you got that open. Did you, Rodney? If you need it.
Yes.
Okay. When it comes to tax credits on buying a house, I actually am familiar with that, and I wanted to start there with. I got started in real estate in 2005, and we were taught back then the way that you get people interested. What people were interested back in then was foreclosures and stuff, because the market was in trouble, not in 05, but just soon thereafter. You know, I thought, lucky me, you know, I get into business and it's falling apart. Well, it didn't, you know, but as things were starting to come unglued back in the 2008 series of time, hi, Angie, how are you? Good morning, California. Good morning, California. What they did was in 2008, they were trying to stabilize the market, and they used tax credits. Remember those, Rodney?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. And so we went from a market, you know, I'm pretty transparent on here that this is from a marketing perspective. When times were really tough back in 08 and beyond, what we learned was people were interested in foreclosures for one reason. You could get a house for 2/3 of the cost of what they were normally going. I mean, it was nuts, you know. And so foreclosure lists were really important, but those were mostly for people with cash. For the people that didn't have cash, they introduced this tax credit, and it started out with $7,500 was tax credit, and then they changed it within, how long was it? What, 6 months? So, and they changed it to $8,000.
I don't remember the change, but yeah, I remember it was a useful product.
It was a useful product, and then before it was all done, before they put out all the fires and all that kind of stuff, it went to $15,000 for a minute, you know. It wasn't very long, but here's what happened. I'll show you something. Let me pop this up. Bing, bing, and we'll go this way. I think that this is what the market. This is the median home prices from 08 till now, and when they introduced the tax credits, you can see that it was dead at the bottom, and as soon as they changed things, it started to recover a little bit. And that was the whole, it worked. You know, I mean, it worked. So let's introduce this topic. Do you want to start?
Go ahead. I'll jump in here.
Okay, so President Biden wants to give homebuyers a $10,000 tax credit. Here we go. And I'm going to read some of this from the article, and then we'll comment a little bit on this. Buying a home has become increasingly out of reach for Americans who are grappling with the double whammy of high interest and surging home values. That's absolutely true. The State of the Union address proposed a new tax credit that would provide $10,000 for first-time home buyers. And I think that the way that breaks down for some reason is $5,000 each for the first 2 years is the way they did it, I think. But Biden's also proposing a separate $10,000 tax credit for current homeowners. This is interesting. They're smart enough, because I'm not going to play politics at all here, but they're smart enough to know if you got buyers, you got to have something for them to buy. You know, I mean, you got to have a little inventory solution here. And so they're also proposing a separate $10,000 tax credit for current homeowners who sell their starter home. This we get into the qualifications, which is really interesting. There's more to this. In order to jump into a bigger house, which if anything holds true with what Rodney and I have been talking about, love foreclosures. Yeah, I know what you mean. I got stories about foreclosures. At any rate, I lost my train of thought just that quick. I read that, lost my train of thought. Starter homes.
Yes.
To jump into a bigger house. If what Rodney and I have been saying, and the rest of the market, and not just us, we're just a reflection of the market, there is pent-up demand that I think is extraordinary. Rates are scaring a lot of people, but as soon as it gets to a number they can tolerate, people are trying to predict what that is. There's a lot of people want to buy houses. So starter homes, jumping into a bigger house, is a strong desire for a lot of people. Okay, so starter home. That'd help melt real estate market. But here's what... Biden's proposals were cheered by advocates of affordable housing, and we've been talking that to death because it's not everything, but it's a lot. Affordable housing is a big chunk of the problem. Inventory and being able to buy houses has created this backlog, this bottleneck, this sluggishness, this constipation, if you will. Strike that. Censor.
You can edit that out of the live show later.
Yeah, but it's calling the most consequential State of the Union address in more than 50 years. I don't know. On a practical level, the tax credits would lower the cost of purchasing a home, an issue that affects Americans of all ages and stripes. The first thing that, talk to me, you're the money guy. I'm not. When it comes to what percentage of the population would be able to take advantage of the tax credit versus those that can't. And what I'm saying is, I mean, you can answer this question. To get a tax credit, you got to act like you have the money in the first place, right?
Well, I'm assuming if they did it like last time, the tax credit would come straight off their returns. Like yes. It's not a cash for cash. They're not giving you cash. They're going to give you a straight out credit across your tax return that would affect you by that amount of money. Is the way kind of I understand it. Now they'll give you the $5,000 each year. They'll give you a $5,000 tax credit, or So I don't know if that's in addition to you getting to count your interest off. Because you have a minimum deduction there. So there's a lot about this, but first and foremost, any tax credit that you could be extended to, especially if it was under $200,000 annually for a family, that would affect a lot of people. And they said 3.5 million. So I'm guessing that they looked at how many Americans are making under 200,000.
Yeah.
And that may be where they come up with that number. But it would be a tremendous amount of help. But honestly, I think this is a bunch of political hubbub.
I'm so
nothing's
glad to hear you
nothing's
say that.
nothing's passed. I mean, this came from his campaign speech. Um, yeah, first of all, I'd love to see a tax credit, um, but honestly, I don't know if tax credits what we need. We need more housing, which would fuel it would if we had additional houses, we wouldn't be creating these hot pockets and hot markets and stuff like that, and the prices would remain more affordable, because affordable is gone. Like, you can talk
Affordable
about
is gone.
affordability. Affordable is gone. Like, when people want to buy in these major cities and things like that, getting great deals, or a $200,000 house in the middle of Dallas ain't gonna happen, right? So
Right.
affordable is gone. They need to worry about, yeah, tackling the next plan. And I don't know if building duplexes everywhere is the answer, but um, that's the way I feel. I really love the tax credit. I love the idea, but
I do too.
this is something he said in the speech, and whether it's a Democrat, Republican, no matter who said it, this means it's worse, because he's been elected, and none of this is. If today ain't the day we woke up and says, "Oh man, we're struggling with affordability," this has been an issue for a long time that they could have already dealt with.
I and except, and we'll get to the seller part of this in a second. I mean, we're talking about, it's, at least as far as this goes, this is buy side solutions, or
Right.
creating a solution make it easier for people to buy houses that aren't there, which creates more competition for the homes that are, and that, if I'm not mistaken, typically pushes up prices. Typically.
Yeah, I do like the sell clause. Like, if this all was to come to, I don't know if you'd sell your starter home, but I think if you sold any home that, somebody that a first time home buyer bought, whether it was, I don't know what you do, but I would pretty much give them to any house that was sold that was a primary residence, because that's what we need. Is we need houses, people that are living sell their primaries and things like that, to help with
Yeah.
a golden handcuff.
And so let's talk about it. Let's talk about who qualifies. So first time home buyers. Now, from a lender, if you take it literally, first time, that's going to cut a lot of people out. In the past, it was like hasn't owned a home for 3 years or something. Isn't that right?
That's the
Is that right?
definition of first time home buyer. If somebody who hasn't claimed, interest on their tax returns in 3 years is
Oh,
what typically.
oh, there's your answer. And Ange, we're going to answer this question. This is where we're headed. Okay, so first time home buyers, I'm going to assume it's going to stick with that same rule of 3 years, no interest deduction. And then 1 year tax credit for current homeowners would be able to, for people who own starter homes. Here we go. Defined as homes below the median home price in their county. Now, I want to see the guy there's about 1,700 different ways to get to median price,
Yeah.
and
it changes every day. I mean, it's
every minute of every day.
Yeah.
So what's the tolerance going to be? And if you're in like LA County, that's going to be a wholly different, at least it accounts for that AMI, that area median income, I think is what's called.
Yes.
But but still.
Yeah, but it's all gonna boil down to that 200,000. You're not gonna get way out of whack because you can't make more than 200,000.
Yeah.
So the houses are not going to be, you're probably not going to be buying any, 7, 8, 900,000 at 200,000, right? I mean,
probably not, unless you've got resources. I don't know. Lender. Right. That's a lender question. But here's the other part that I thought was interesting and important. Then this goes to the starter home. So the tax credit for home sellers defined as below median home price in their county is that $1 below or a percentage? That's still, when it gets to that stuff, I'm a detail guy. But it says the owners have to sell to another owner occupant rather than an investor, according to the White House.
Good.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Rodney's been preaching that for half a year.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
at
it
least
says,
it'd cut out all the investors. It'd cut out well, just in competitions for a primary.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Because
it's not so much investors I'm worried about. It's the hedge funds that buy 700 in one city at a time. That's what I'm don't like.
and we've talked about that. Blackstone,
Yeah.
Blackthorn, whatever, Blackstone, Progress Realty, those guys. And not that they're bad business models, because they're not. It's just that I think that they get it's abusive. That's just my take on that.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they got the money. They can do whatever they want to.
God bless America.
I'll tell you this, they didn't call and ask Rodney his opinion.
That was a voicemail you missed. That's all that happened.
Yeah.
But it says, so the next question is, how would the tax credits impact the housing market? The Biden, and I am not poking politically. I'm chiming in my opinion on an article that affects me and people in my industry. So I'm not sending any messages one way or the other. Got to see some stuff. Philip Thirst, hey. Thanks, Rodney. Did you see this? Don't be mean.
Yeah. No. See, I'm not talking about the that kind of investor, but it's what I'm talking about is the institutional investor.
I got it. We love the thirsts. It says the Biden administration said the tax credits would help unfreeze the real estate market and make home buying more affordable for millions. Unfreeze? I don't know. I just don't know.
No, I mean, it ain't going to do all that. But first of all, it's fun to talk about just because we have experienced the tax credit previously. I thought was very succcuseful.
Absolutely.
I thought it helped a lot of people. It was easy to use. It wasn't complicated. Now, this one's fun to talk about, but I don't think right now, I don't think he's getting anything passed like this right now before an election or anything like that. So would we ever see this? I don't think we will, but, it would be nice if they had any kind of tax credit. I think it would help just from the last time I've seen it in the market.
Yeah, and like you've said a number of times, rightfully so. When would these take effect? Maybe never.
Yeah,
maybe never.
This was a speech from a guy who's already been in office. So if he really wanted to do it, he could have been talking about what he's accomplished versus what he's going to do. Right. So,
Yeah. Ooh. So the next thought blends into the rest of today's show, and that's, are there tax credit for building new homes? Yes, Biden also proposed several new efforts to fund the construction of affordable homes. I have no idea what that means. How do you qualify that? I bet you Wendy could come up with a definition, but I don't know what that means. And I guess it's a fluffy thing. And rental units. That includes a new neighborhood homes tax credit, which would provide an incentive to build or renovate so-called starter homes. That sounds problematic. Sounds like there's competition for those starter homes that are getting sold, or priorities geared for first-time home buyers. Anything that can be done to incentivize builders, wouldn't that be a plus?
I think so, but I also don't think that we got to rely on builders to pull us out of every new construction is going to pull us out of everything, because it won't. In a normal market, we have a lot of people buying and selling in the local area.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not happening just because a lot of the people that are locked into very good rates,
Yep.
and they're still locked in, and it's like a broken record, and they're not moving or selling, which is, basically reducing our inventory until they get comfortable with that new rate, which we're getting closer to. Like, the people are getting closer to a normal,
New
what they
normal.
call normal. Now people say, well, that 3%, we'll never see that again. Where there was people saying, I'm not buying until I get 2.5. But now
Yeah.
I think people have a better sense of what the normal market is, a normal rate. And I think as that gets closer and the rates get down, I think that's going to free up more inventory than what the builders can provide. Like, builders just can't provide the shortage that is necessary and in the right locations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is, however, we're still 2.5, 3 million homes. One place I saw, and we'll see it in a minute, it's like 3.2 million homes short, in order to catch up. And all that started back in the 2010s when things were crashing. And if I was a builder, would I invest in new stuff? No, not back then. Right. What are you, nuts?
Yeah,
I wouldn't do that. But I think what's interesting is that at least what I like is where we're starting to have the conversations out loud instead of just people grumbling about it. I think when you're talking about, that's a really interesting comment that you made. I am still an advocate of the idea that if people are positive about the market, that the market will progress in a positive way. Things go up when people are happy, right?
Right.
And when it comes to mortgage rates, at least as far as what I've seen, and we're talking about new normals, it used to be, it wasn't very long ago, and I know that you remember this, people were saying, I'm not buying until the rates get back to 3. I don't hear that anymore.
Right.
That has been dashed. That has been, people are just like, okay, they've accepted the fact that that's not going to happen,
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it, because people will wait the rest of their lives. That's a grand exaggeration, but probably, for that to ever happen. What concerns me about all of these things, though they're good, is until this becomes available, and I'll shut up and get off my soapbox. You know me, I got started. Until this 10 grand for buyers and sellers gets actually introduced, and until the Fed actually cuts rates, which we expect that to happen, things seem pretty good. It's given people a reason to, like, I got to wait a minute. I got to wait for that Fed cut. I got to wait for that 10 grand. I'm trying to find a way to tell people, don't wait for every new shiny thing that comes along. Does that make sense?
Yes. And yeah, that article, the previous article we discussed, that's not even that'd be an easy thing to discuss. It's like, this is not even proposed legislation yet, so you can forget about that. By the time you buy, you'll have you'll by the time that comes out, you'll have 2 jobs before then. So you're exactly right. And I think people, instead of saying I'm waiting on 3, I think you hear people say, well, 6 is not so bad. 6 is about okay. So I think when we get around 6, we could see definitely a lot more inside the area moving around.
And there's still a heck of a lot of talk about, in the next couple of years, getting down into the 5s and stuff. There's a lot of conversation about that. And if the economy does what it looks like it's going to be doing, in other words, inflation will be able to tame that. They've done. I just can't. Every week I think they've done a good job. Am I an economist? No, but I spend money every day.
Yeah.
And they're doing pretty darn good on that. So, um, are rates going to get better? We have every reason to believe that they will. That's my point.
Right. Right.
That's my point. And I just heard this report this morning. I'd like to catch. We're helping. Hey, come on. Sorry. I'm getting a spinny wheel. Bing. That's the first couple of weeks in June is projected to be the best time to sell your house this year. Let me answer it this way. I think any time in the beginning, any time this year is going to be a good time. And because the question implies, is there going to be a huge difference between May and June or May and July? My answer is I'm going to say no. I'm going to say, is it going to be significantly higher like it was back a couple of years ago? No. I think median prices are going to go up, 2%, 3%? Some have said 5% this year. It's nothing.
But when you do we did a chart last few days or last couple shows ago, when you put it listed the best time to sell, it had a spring bias. It had the springtime in there.
No doubt. Yep. Yeah, I think I still got that. Sorry. But the question is, as I received it, is springtime better? Absolutely. Because we've gotten more into the cycle to what we're used to, where it gets a little slower in the winter and then it starts to pick up in the spring, and that's what's normal. But a couple of years ago, it was like it wasn't doing that anymore. The question is, I think, how do I maximize my return on investment? How I sell my house for the most money? It's going to sell for a little bit more in the next few months. It just will, but just not a huge amount. If you think that real estate, and I'm not poking at anybody, for anybody that thinks that real estate is going down actually overall, I just don't think that's just not in the cards. What you'll hear people talk about, prices coming down, what they're really, I think, responding to is people list their homes. It's a hot market hangover. They're used to getting anything they want. And so and it's still okay. They list their home a little hot, a little high, just to see if in our area, with all due respect, if a California isn't coming in and wants to buy a house quick, well, you might get extra few dollars. That might just happen. So it just isn't enough upward pressure. It just, you're going to be fine. It's pretty stable is what I'm getting at right now. So, I mean, to finish I think I forgot my point again. I don't know what's going on. When we talk about prices coming down a little bit, if you price too hot and nobody comes, you have to lower the price. So when you see Zillow talking about price cuts and stuff like that, it's just overpriced homes being adjusted to where they're supposed to be.
There you have it. Yeah.
I'll shut up.
So springtime is best. I mean, like she's saying, it's somewhere around this time. Around this time, you should get a few percentage points more than if you list in December, something like that.
Yeah, and the bottom line is it's still marketing. So if your house is in good shape, call it move-in ready. If your house is in good shape and it's priced correctly, and you're best served pricing it correctly so you get multiple offers and let the buyers battle each other to get that house, where the house itself that's not the point anymore, where you get buyers wanting to beat each other. I'm going to beat that guy is more important than the price of the house. That's when you win, hands down. That's when you win. Multiple offers. Yes. Okay. All right. So next time is we need more houses. So we know that Americans are facing historic housing affordability crisis. Talked that to death. It says millennials are feeling disenfranchised and hinder Gen Z attempts to leave the nest. With sky-high home prices and burdensome mortgages weighing down on buyers, the housing market is locked in. The Biden administration, here we go, has introduced a number of measures meant to address these issues. We talked about tax credit. We've got down payment assistance. Remember are they still doing the closing cost reduction? Remember that a few months ago? They had changed the numbers to make it easier.
Yes. No, I mean, there's really no closing cost reduction. I mean,
but didn't they change the percentages or something?
Oh,
the LLPA thing we were talking about?
Yes. Correct. It's kind of built in the price. So yeah, it's really, I guess you could frame it that way, but it's kind of not an inaccurate way to frame it.
Okay. Help me out.
Like because it's not really closing costs. It's going to affect your rate.
Oh, right.
Versus,
Well, we've got an article on that, but I won't go there. So we have a supply challenge in the economy since the financial crisis. We built too little housing here in the United States. It says here that the U.S. needs between 2 and 7 million homes to make up for the supply gap. Good night, nurse. Starting construction despite the U.S. starting construction on 1.5 million new homes in each of the last 3 years, which is pretty high compared to what's normal, the nation's housing supply remains far behind where it needs to be. Biden said in his address that he cut the red tape. What do you think that means?
Honestly, just from the fact that Democrats tend to increase red tape with banking tenfold. Increase. I think what they're talking about is what it actually says remove of barriers to construction and doubling the Federal Home Loan Bank's annual contribution to the affordable housing program. This just it's just a lot of talk that they could have already done all this to help prevent it or help because we're coming out of this. We're at the end of this, in my opinion, not something where we need to be doing tax credits and things like that. But he's getting somebody's getting reelected, so they're coming up with his speech. There's things that he had to address, right? The affordability, the economy, out of the air, our foreign policies and the border, things like that. You knew he was going to say stuff about homes and affordability. So this is kind of what he's come up with to do that, to kind of counteract his campaign or whatever. So
yeah. And it says here that one of the other things that they're trying to do, and we know that it's not happening, but still it's worth talking about, is the new plan would eliminate, and I should have asked Jay this last week, the plan would eliminate title insurance fees for federally backed mortgages. Imagine?
Okay, so he's saying for FHA, for federally backed, he's talking about for VA, FHA and VA. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So it still is there's still going to be a servicer in the middle, right?
Yes.
And there's still going to be investors. And so investors may never get on board with no title policy. Like the title policy, as we've discussed, protects the buyer, and they normally get this title policy at a very discounted price.
Yeah.
Than like the seller's usually paying for a majority of it. And so when you own your home, you want a sense of security. You own it free and clear, and nobody can come back to you later and claim something that's not true and potentially take your whole house, right? But either way, yes.
It's still
they're talking about removing probably one of the biggest the charges that are probably the most important to the homeowner.
Yeah, and they even downgrade the cost, and they're still saving $1,000 of small potatoes, which I agree.
Yeah.
You know what they're taking little gnats and fleas trying to take care of this thing.
Right. Our market's been tested over and over, and title insurance and companies and all these insurance and title companies, they have survived the market. Meaning, they it's not like this unappended, just like a title company couldn't go out there and just charge whatever they want. They'd be ran out of business.
Yep.
This is a very competitive arena, and I feel like we're getting these services at the best possible price they can be issued at. And it's like, what else can you ask for? But when the government sees, oh, we're going to cut something out, they just pick this fee. I mean, they could do anything they want, but it's hard. It's like, why do you pick somebody else's fee to get the transaction done? It doesn't make sense.
You're using somebody else's business to make your bottom line appear better, or what?
Yeah, I mean, they're basically saying, okay, well, we're not going to require something that is going to protect the homeowner, but it's still not going to protect them in a foreclosure.
But you can buy that house cheaper.
You can save that extra few $100.
And so here's my last thought on this article that lends us into our last article, which is, I think we've been talking about this. Biden proposed building on his 2022 housing supply action plan. Now it seems like we're talking about a lot of puffery. Here's my point about all these discussions. At least we're talking about it. I don't care. I agree that we're probably having the discussion because it's election year. We all know that things get kicked around, but to me, this is a really important topic, and especially for the country. I think it is. People want to buy, they want to live in their house, and at least we're having the conversation. That's all I'm saying. But Biden proposed the building on his 2022 housing supply action plan before the State of the Union address on Thursday, with tax credits for home builders, and we talked about that a minute ago, that construct affordable housing. I just don't know what that means. A new $20 billion innovation fund. I have no idea what that is, for the construction of multifamily units, starter homes, and to incentivize the removal of barriers to construction, doubling the Federal Home Loan Bank's annual contribution to the affordable housing program. There's a lot to unpack on that. There's a lot. But I wonder what the innovation fund is. I have to look that up.
It goodness gracious, it comes from Ukraine, and it goes through. I'm just
okay. You mean it's bundled to that bill? Got it. Yeah. Okay. All right.
No, it's the plan. The plan was, his plan was that it had the tax credit, it had the other couple things, the fees, and whatever that other initiative was. That was going to save on money. I mean, that was his big plan that consisted of that plan. And then the other stuff is, it's, like you say, I like them talking about it as well. But, maybe the other side, the Republicans get on this and they have a plan that sparks some interest and that sort of thing to do more business as well.
Well, I mean, if we want more houses, we got to incentivize the people that are building them. That's just what it is. I'm going to interject a question that Ange had, and there's one for you too as well, and then we'll jump on this last final thought. First, this. I'm getting a little beach ball spinning wheel going on. What's going on with that? Hang on. Cut back some of my CPU usage. There we go.
There it is.
Getting a little stressed about thinking about all the coordinating I'm going to need to do. Let me try to put your mind at ease just real quick on that. If moving has you stressed out, which I get that. When you find a good agent, if you need help with that, I can help you with that. But if you're going to use an agent from California, they should be able to think through with you how to sell and how to buy someplace else with the least amount of stress to you. That is what I'm trying to say. is that we do that stuff a lot, and we're used to that juggling the balls, and it can be stressful. But I'm telling you that if you find the right professional, and again, if you need help, just let me know. I'll help you find somebody out there. They can organize things so that it'll take 80% of that concern off your plate. I mean, that we can do that. The second thing is from Philip. Can you say that about insurance costs? Can you say that about insurance costs are doubling? Did they say anything about lowering those?
They've only thing that's been touted about that is it's getting worse. Um, the insurance companies, well, I mean, I guess California and Florida have already regulated some of their insurance because they're having to give it out themselves. They're having to insure properties themselves just to keep uh, insurance going on those properties. So I don't think there's anything they can do about the insurance companies because they're just taking huge losses with mudslides and fires and everything else, and
Hurricanes.
wind damage, and
Hurricanes, yeah.
all across the country. It's not just East Coast, West Coast, North. I mean, it's everywhere. So yeah, the insurance game is on these coastal cities are getting brutal, and I don't know
And that's
I don't know if it's going to get any better.
we had that show a couple of weeks ago that there's, if it gets to the point where people can't get insurance, you're just not going to be able to build in some places. I mean,
Right.
who would do that, unless you had cash and it didn't matter if it got blown away. I mean, who would do that? I think that answers everything. If you see something else, tell me, Rodney. So here's the final thought. Take up just a couple of minutes here, but I thought that this was excellent. And the whole idea is this. Here's the article. Less money, less house, how market forces are reshaping the American home. We were talking about months ago that if affordability is such an issue, which it is, the only solution, if you want to sell houses to people, if that's part of your plan, as opposed to building rental properties, because that's possible too, you got to build a different kind of house. And it says here, the boom in smaller construction has cut median new home prices by 4%. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. In the past year to 2,100 square feet, census data shows, the lowest reading since 2010. That's helped bring down overall costs and contributed to a 6% dip in new home prices in the same period. 6%, that's a big deal. Townhomes in particular are increasingly popular. When I was buying a house, I was looking at, I don't know, 2,500. I wanted 2,500, whatever it was, or more. And then when the guy I was working with said, "Have you looked at this townhouse?" And I was like, I'm not living in no stinking townhome, until I saw it. I went, hey, wait a minute. This is cooler than I thought, Anyway, townhouses in particular are increasingly popular, accounting for 1 in 5 new homes under construction at the end of 2023. It helps the builder because they can compress the footprint. You can get, 40 people on half an acre probably, right? That kind of a thing. And it's less expensive for the people. Do you have any thoughts on this particular take, Rodney?
Yeah, it's been a pretty feasible theme that I thought that people have adapted to help with the affordability, the prices increasing, and the rates increasing. So this is to help combat that. And when you say decrease, like a decrease of 6%. And when I think about it, like when they showed that, it was like 480 or something like that.
Right.
And then when you took 6% off that, it made that home in the 440s or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Something like 450 or whatever it was. Versus that 480 would have been 560 the following year. Instead, it went down 6% just because it got smaller. So I think that was I think it's been a phenomenal transition that builders picked up on. And, the other piece of that, I think people are moving a little bit further out. to obviously get.
It's the same theory applies. Keep driving till you can afford it. That's the way it is, But what they're, and I think that what we're seeing here, the trend, if there is a trend, because it says somewhere in this article, if you can find it for me, let me know. It's the trend for Americans, and that's what they're getting at. And I can't say that they're wrong. Bigger is better, and I want to, shinier and faster and bigger than you. You know what I mean? That's just kind of the American way. But now, with the way things are going, even a slightly smaller home can be thousands of dollars cheaper for builders and the buyers. This is a trend driven by just how unaffordable housing has become with sky-high prices, rising interest rates, and few homes for sale, just like I said. It makes me think, don't take this too far, but there's other cultures that have accepted the fact that, maybe they live on an island and they have little tiny places. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. I mean, this is typical. I mean, to me, would I have guessed it? No. But if you say, okay, well, you're going to face an affordability crisis and people still want to move, this is a very logical explanation of what to do to be able to combat that. Of course you don't go in. Now, when this is over and let's say things start changing and rates go down again, people's going to want to build 9,000 square feet again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that, the mega mansions and all that stuff will come back and it'll continue these cycles for the rest of the eternity. And then, of course, you're just going to have to drive till you afford it or build a little bit smaller.
But think about it. This is kind of exciting. This is exciting. If this trend, I'm going to call it a trend for I don't know what else to call it. If this hooks up and builders, if this is truly a solution, and I'm not talking about tiny houses, the ones that are 80 square feet. I'm not talking about that, but it's just smaller homes. If that's a trend that people can hang with and is considered a solution to the answer, part of the answer to the affordable housing problem, the more of those homes that get built, what that does, in my opinion, is it gives the newer buyers coming down the pipe that want to buy a starter home someplace to go. It gives them another layer of, I can start a small house. I can afford that. And that it just gives more of a flow when you have starter homes, first-time buyers that can get a really small house and begin, because that's what I think these are going to be. It gives room for the flow. That's a terrible explanation. I was trying to explain off the top of my head.
No, I mean, I get, yeah. I mean, it's
but here's and I'll end with this. Been kind of talky today. Sorry. Think about what it is that we just came through. And why is it that people in our National Association of Realtors, we'll talk about that. Think about what we just came through with COVID and the growth spurt in housing in this last, I'm going to guess 4 years now, where people were living in the tiny places. Remote work became part of the scene, and people needed office space and a backyard and bigger places to live. And all of a sudden they could live in a bigger place that was further out of town because they didn't have to go to the office anymore. And at the same time, prices are going up. Think about, because everybody went from the city living to big outside in the suburb with a big yard. I mean, right?
Yeah.
I think I've got that right.
Yeah.
So people went from small to big because it was possible. Houses were cheap, mortgages were 3%, and remote work was a thing. And you needed a place to work and play and live and not go out to dinner. And now all of a sudden, the pendulum goes exactly the opposite direction. Big is no longer working for us, and we got to get smaller again. As a population, when you think about it, we're kind of getting yanked around a little bit.
And I think it's more I think it's more of your time in life versus, you know, versus necessarily the market. Like, people with larger family needs bigger houses.
Yeah.
Um, and as people move out, you're going to want to downsize and things like that. So, for me, that's what kind of way I look at the cycle as a bigger, smaller picture. Is that now we got so much pent up demand and moving around, and we're several $1,000,000 short on new construction, with for and then new first time home buyers, we're short on those as well. I mean, it's like,
Yeah. Well, and now the big boys are paying attention, like D.R. Horton. Those guys sold 82,000 homes last year. And most
wow,
of them were under $400,000, which for a lot of, depends on where you are. That's pretty
right,
damn close to median home
yeah,
prices right there. You know,
that would be a fantastic range in this area for a first time home buyer.
and its lineup now starts at 900 square feet. I'm not saying those two are the same. I'm not saying 400
Yeah,
is 900,
wow.
but I'm saying if D.R. Horton is paying attention, the biggest home builder in the country, they're pretty good on data, And then you've got Toll Brothers, which is sort of a top end guys, and they're appealing to the what they call affordable luxury for the people. The guy, what he said about this is for Toll Brothers, the kind of luxury guys. He expects entry level homes will eventually make up 45% of the homes sold by them. I think they're the second largest. I'm really proud of how we went after the more affluent first time home buyer. Well, isn't he smart? So
Yeah,
I think that just brings it home is affordability is a big deal and it's important. And you've got the government that's yapping about it. And you got these builders that are doing something about it. I mean,
yeah.
you show me private industry over government all day, It's the work that's getting done. I bet, yeah. Oh, Rodney, get prepared, buddy. Why is that getting spinny? Ding. Oh, sorry.
My yard's not that big. I don't think it's 2.5, 3 acres, something like that. I've got one of the smallest yards in my neighborhood, if you can believe that.
Oh, it's a beautiful area out there. Realistically, can I answer, can we work on a couple of questions, Rodney? Is that okay?
Oh yeah,
Realistically, do we really need huge homes all the time? Yeah. The definition on that has changed. It, in my opinion.
what's a huge? I'll tell you this. Me and my son had a conversation about this the other day,
Hmm.
and we said, somebody was talking about, well, if we get mad or whatever. I said, I can go to my room and they can go to theirs, and everybody chill out. So I'm a big fan of big homes, because I can go to my space, do my thing, and the kids or my wife go to their space, do their things. Maybe
Yeah.
sometime, and of course, when we have family over, it's always nice to have space as well. So,
Yeah. Well, and I think that there's going to be a debate on how large is large. For some people, a large home is 5,000. For some people, large is 2,200 squares. It just depends on what you're used to, the size of your family, that kind of stuff, and where you
yeah,
are in life. Um, the pattern I see is people start small, they get bigger, they have family, the house gets large, they get older, the kids move out, they buy smaller homes. It's just
yeah.
the way just the way it tends to work. So here's Rodney's question. This is good. What do you think about this new association trying to knock out the NRI? I'm reasonably certain it's actually the NAR, the National Association of Realtors. although I need to get a gun probably.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't. What new association is trying to? Is there somebody trying to attack the Realtor Association? Because I actually thought he was talking about the NRA as well.
No, it's actually the NAR, National Association of Realtors, has really come under fire a lot lately, with presidents quitting and CEOs quitting. Yeah, NAR, and it's gotten kind of messy, and so there's because we belong. They're all, and it's none of this is bad. It's just what it is, that we belong to these associations, and if you want to be part of that association, you would have to adhere to certain rules. That's what it is. And if you don't, then you can't be part of their club, And so there's other companies, for lack, I guess that's what they are, elements trying to take over where NAR has been running the show for a long time. It's complicated, and and they're big part of those lawsuits. I mean, that's expensive. Can they survive that? By how many? Is the question. Can you can take a few hits, but how many? I don't know. So what do I think about it? Here's what I think. When it comes to lawsuits, the stuff that we all know is going on with NAR being gnarly. That was funny. With them being in a position they are, it's going to be years before anything actually substantive happens. And so my choice is I gotta sit and wait and watch. That's the only choice that I have. I can't respond.
And I mean, for the legislation that's come out so far, it's like no real change in what was already out there. Everything was negotiable beforehand. It's still negotiable. It's but now it's I mean, it looks like it's just turned into a mess.
And that's 1,200 board members. Why? Because they can. I don't have an answer for that.
They've had some of the best lobbyists in the history of lobbyists. I'm telling you, the Realtor Association has done a phenomenal job with their lobbyists and things like that. So I'd say they're going to be okay, honestly.
Yeah, they want to make it harder to become a realtor. I'm completely okay with that. I'm okay with that, and because right now I don't know what the actual numbers are, but I can tell you that there's some purging going on. There's some purging going on. I'll just leave it like that. There's changes are happening, and none of it's bad. It's painful right in this moment, It's the real estate industry is in a state of flux, but people still want houses. That American dream is still alive and well. The only thing that for me anyway, that I can pay attention to that has any substance to the real world is, I appreciate Washington, but means nothing to me. I appreciate NAR and all those guys. For right now, they don't mean anything to me. What matters is what's going to happen with the economy in the next few months. Is what's Jay going to say? Are those numbers going to go down? I have every reason to believe that they will. But the rest of this, and maybe it's a statement on me too, the rest of it's just noise. Are we going to get a $10,000 tax credit? Hell, I don't know.
Right. No, right. Yeah. I mean, especially during this time, it'll be fun to talk about some of these things. Trump may come out with some special incentive on his shoes, that'll be, so a lot of it will be fun to talk about, and maybe some of it will come to fruition and help a lot of homeowners. But until then, you're right. None of it matters. The only thing that matters is, our customers we have now, the people we got to take care of, the friends and family and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
in the next few months, is like you said, is our important,
Yeah.
we're dealing with what's in front of us, working the front line or whatever so to speak.
Well, that's a beautiful way to put that. If the jobs market is strong and the economy is strong, not too strong, just getting under control. I mean, they've been asking all along for a 2% inflation rate, and we're hitting 3.12 or some.
Yeah,
that's pretty freaking close from 9.
Yeah. It's been really good. Yeah,
it's been really good. So, we're okay. I guess I'll finish this way, and then you give me your final thoughts. If people are making noise about affordability, and last week we talked about affordability and infill and trying to put multi-family homes in everybody's working on the problem. If that conversation continues, we'll find solutions at some point. At least that's
I like it. I think the market will be fine without solutions. I think it needs to take its course, let these higher rates run their course. We come back down. It's a normal cycle. It's going to be supply and demand again. It's going to be really good. And last thing I'll say is just on, I'm with Angie here. She said, I just need a basement so my husband can watch football and I can go watch soccer. That's it, man. That's it. I mean, I can go to my room and hit golf balls and watch football in there. And Jennifer's in there watching her Lifetime or whatever she watches, something that she's inevitably going to watch, something where a man has done something terribly wrong to another woman. And then I'm going to hear about it at dinner.
Oh God. That was fun. Well, hey, listen. That was fun this week, Rodney. Thank you for your time. Any final thoughts for us?
That's it. Enjoy everybody watching, and people replay it later. Holler if you have any questions. Contact information will be below. Wendy, Phil, Ange, you guys, thank you so much for playing today, and we'll talk to you next week. See y'all.